The morning mist clung to Whisperfall Village like a shroud of forgotten dreams, and 16-year-old Finn Ashworth couldn't shake the feeling that their little mountain community was slowly fading from the world. 3 months had passed since the avalanche destroyed the old communication tower, and with it, their only link to the valleys below. No messages from relatives in distant villages, no news from the outside world, no calls for help when old Henrik's heart gave out last week. Finn crouched beside the twisted remains of what had once been their lifeline to civilization running. Calloused fingers over bent metal and shattered circuits. The tower had been ancient even before the avalanche, a relic from the days when the government still cared about remote mountain settlements. Now it was just another pile of junk in a village that seemed to specialize in broken things. Still staring at that mess, a gentle voice called from behind him. Finn turned to see Luna Brightwater approaching, her auburn hair catching the weak sunlight that filtered through the perpetual mountain haze. At 15, she already possessed the quiet confidence of someone who'd spent years helping her mother tend to the village's various ailments and injuries. Her green eyes held a warmth that seemed to chase away the constant chill that settled in Finn's bones. Someone has to figure out how to fix it, Finn replied, gesturing at the wreckage. We can't stay cut off forever. Luna settled beside him on a moss-covered boulder, close enough that he caught the faint scent of the medicinal herbs she always seemed to carry. Mother says the council is talking about sending a messenger to Ironhold Village. It's only a 3-day journey through the pass, if the pass is even open, Finn muttered. Winter comes early up here, and the snows haven't fully melted from last year's storms. Besides, what happens when our messenger gets there? They send word to the capital. The capital forms a committee. The committee debates funding, and maybe in 5 years we get a new tower. Luna laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. You're probably right. The old tower took them 7 years to install, and that was when Whisperfall had twice as many people. Finn's jaw tightened at the reminder. Every year, more families left the village, drawn to the promise of easier lives in the lowlands. His own parents had died in a mining accident when he was 12, leaving him in the care of old Willem the blacksmith. Half the houses in Whisperfall stood empty now, their windows dark and their gardens overgrown. What if we didn't need them to fix it? Finn asked suddenly, an idea taking shape in his mind. What do you mean? Finn stood and began pacing, his excitement building. What if we could build our own communication system? Not a massive tower that takes a government crew to install, but something simpler. Something we could make ourselves. Luna raised an eyebrow, though her expression remained encouraging, rather than skeptical. With what materials? We're not exactly rich in advanced technology up here. That's just it, Finn said, kneeling beside the wreckage again. Look at all this. The tower might be destroyed, but the components are still here. Radio transmitters, receivers, amplifiers, power systems. Most of it's damaged, but the basic pieces. He picked up a battered circuit board. Examining it closely, I think I could salvage enough to build a basic radio system. Luna moved closer, studying the debris with new interest. You know how to build radios. I know the theory, Finn admitted. I've been reading every technical manual in the village library since I was 10. Plus, Willem's been teaching me about electronics, along with metalworking. He used to be a communications specialist in the army before he came here. I didn't know that about Willem, Luna said softly. Not many people do. He doesn't talk about his past much. Finn carefully extracted what looked like a functional antenna assembly from the twisted metal, but he's been showing me how circuits work, how signals travel, how to troubleshoot problems. I think I could actually do this, Luna. Luna was quiet for a moment, watching Finn's face as he examined each piece of salvage with growing enthusiasm. There was something infectious about his optimism, a stubborn refusal to accept that their situation was hopeless. It was one of the things she'd always admired about him, even when they were children playing together in the village square. What would you need? She asked finally. Finn's head snapped up, his blue eyes bright with surprise. You believe I can do it? I believe you can do anything you set your mind to, Luna replied, and the sincerity in her voice made Finn's heart skip. You built that water wheel that powers the grain mill. You designed the pulley system that helps my mother lift patients who can't walk. You're always fixing things, always making them better. Why should a radio be any different? Finn felt warmth spread through his chest, partly from Luna's confidence in him and partly from the way she was looking at him. Like he wasn't just the orphan blacksmith's apprentice, but someone worth believing in. I'd need tools, he said, forcing himself to focus on the practical matters. Better ones than I have access to. Soldering equipment, wire strippers, a multimeter if we can find one, and components, resistors, capacitors. Maybe some integrated circuits if any survive the avalanche intact. What about power? Luna asked. The old tower was connected to the main electrical grid. That's the beauty of it, Finn explained, his excitement building again. A simple radio doesn't need much power. I could build it to run on batteries, or even rig up a small solar panel. We get enough sunlight during the day, even with the mountain shadows. Luna stood and brushed dust from her woolen skirt. Then we'd better start gathering what you need. I know where some of the villagers keep old electronics, and Mother has medical equipment that might have useful components. You want to help? Finn asked, surprised by her immediate enthusiasm. Of course I want to help, Luna replied, offering him her hand to pull him to his feet. This village is my home too. Besides, she added with a smile that made Finn's stomach flutter, someone needs to make sure you don't electrocute yourself while you're saving us all. As they walked back toward the village center, Finn couldn't help but steal glances at Luna. They'd known each other their entire lives, but lately, something had been shifting between them. Maybe it was the way she'd started seeking him out for conversations. That had nothing to do with repairs or errands. Maybe it was how she always seemed to find excuses to touch his arm when she laughed at his jokes, or maybe it was simply that they were both growing up, and the easy friendship of childhood was evolving into something more complex and thrilling. Where should we start? Luna asked as they passed the weathered buildings that lined Whisper Falls Main Street. Willem's Forge, Finn replied. He's got the best tools in the village, and if anyone else knows about electronics, it'll be him. After that, we can start canvassing for materials. They found Willem bent over his anvil, his massive frame silhouetted against the glow of the forge fire. Despite being in his 60s, the blacksmith still possessed the strength and precision that had made him legendary throughout the mountain communities. His gray beard was singed from decades of working with hot metal, and his hands bore countless small scars from his craft. Willem, Finn called as they approached. I need to ask you about something. The older man looked up, his weathered face creasing into a smile when he saw Luna. Miss Brightwater, always a pleasure, and young Finn. I can already see that look in your eyes. What impossible project are you planning now? Finn launched into his explanation, describing his plan to build a radio communication system from the salvaged tower components. Willem listened intently, occasionally asking technical questions that revealed the depth of his knowledge. It's ambitious, Willem said finally, setting down his hammer, and dangerous. Radio work involves high voltages, precise calibrations. One mistake could fry every circuit you've managed to salvage. But it's possible, Luna asked. Willem studied Finn's face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. With the right approach, yes. It's possible, more than possible, actually. The boys got good instincts for this kind of work. He moved to a locked cabinet at the back of his workshop and withdrew a set of precision tools that Finn had never seen before. I haven't used these in 20 years, but they should serve our purpose. As the sun began to set behind the mountain peaks, casting long shadows across Whisperfall Village, Finn felt a spark of hope that had been absent since the avalanche. With Luna's support and Willem's expertise, maybe just maybe he could give his isolated community a voice once again. And if Luna kept looking at him the way she was right now, with admiration and something deeper flickering in her green eyes, maybe he could find something even more precious than a solution to their communication problem. The adventure was just beginning. 2 weeks after beginning their ambitious project, Finn's makeshift workshop had transformed Willem's storage shed into a maze of salvaged electronics and jury-rigged equipment. Circuit boards covered every available surface, their copper traces gleaming under the light of oil lamps. Spools of wire hung from the rafters like metallic spider webs, and the air hummed with the constant buzz of soldering irons and testing equipment. Luna had become Finn's constant companion in the work, her steady hands proving invaluable for the delicate task of extracting components from damaged boards. She developed an intuitive understanding of electronics that surprised even Willem, identifying functional parts with an accuracy that bordered on miraculous. "Hand me that oscilloscope probe," Finn muttered, squinting at a particularly stubborn circuit. He'd been working for 6 straight hours, trying to coax life from a transmitter module that had been crushed in the avalanche. "The what now?" Luna asked, looking up from her own task of carefully desoldering resistors from a power supply board. "The thin metal thing with the red wire," Finn clarified, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Sorry, I forget not everyone speaks electronics." Luna passed him the probe, her fingers brushing his in the exchange. The brief contact sent a familiar jolt through Finn's system. One that had nothing to do with electricity. Over the past 2 weeks, these small moments of physical contact had become increasingly frequent and increasingly distracting. "There," Finn exclaimed suddenly as the oscilloscope screen flickered to life, displaying the characteristic wave pattern of a functional radio frequency generator. "Luna, look at this. We've got a signal." She leaned over his shoulder to peer at the screen, her auburn hair tickling his cheek. "What does it mean?" "It means our transmitter is working," Finn explained, trying to ignore the way her proximity made his heart race. "We can actually broadcast now. The next step is building a receiver sensitive enough to pick up responses." The workshop door creaked open, and Elder Tobias Stoneheart stepped inside, his walking stick tapping against the wooden floor. At 73, Tobias was Whisperfall's unofficial leader, a position he'd held through a combination of wisdom, stubbornness, and the simple fact that he was too cantankerous to die. "Young Ashworth," Tobias said, surveying the organized chaos around him, "the council is asking for a progress report. Half the village thinks you're wasting time with impossible dreams, and the other half thinks you're going to burn down the settlement with all this electrical nonsense." "We're making real progress," Finn insisted, gesturing at the working transmitter. "Give us another week, and we'll have a complete communication system." Tobias approached the workbench, his roomy eyes examining the array of equipment with surprising intensity. "I was a telegraph operator in my youth," he said quietly, "before the mountains called me home. This is good work, boy. Reminiscent of the old days when we built everything by hand." Luna brightened at the elder's approval. "Finn's been working day and night. He barely sleeps, barely eats. I have to bring him meals just to make sure he doesn't collapse." "Is that so?" Tobias asked with a knowing glint in his eye. "And Miss Brightwater, I suppose you're here purely out of concern for our young inventor's health?" Luna's cheeks flushed pink. "I'm helping with the technical work. I'm learning a lot about electronics." "I'm sure you are," Tobias replied with a slight smile. "Well, carry on. But remember, you two, this village is small enough that everyone notices everything, especially when 2 young people start spending every waking moment together." After Tobias left, an awkward silence settled over the workshop. Finn found himself acutely aware of Luna's presence, of the way she bit her lower lip when concentrating, of how she unconsciously tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. "He's right. You know," Luna said finally, not looking up. "From her work, people are starting to talk about the radio project, about us." Finn's hands stilled on his soldering iron. "What about us?" Luna set down her tools and turned to face him fully. "Finn, we've been friends our whole lives, but lately, things feel different. The way you look at me sometimes, the way I find excuses to be near you. Mira keeps teasing me about my handsome inventor, and I don't know what to tell her because I don't even know what this is." Finn felt his mouth go dry. They were venturing into territory that felt more dangerous than high-voltage electronics. "Luna, test the receiver," she interrupted gently. "Let's see if your impossible dream actually works before we complicate things further." With trembling hands, Finn connected the final components of their jury-rigged radio system. The receiver was a masterwork of salvaged technology antenna rays cobbled together. From the destroyed tower, amplifier circuits rebuilt from damaged components, and a speaker system that Willem had helped them construct from scratch. Broadcasting on frequency 146.5 MHz, Finn announced, activating the transmitter. "This is Whisperfall Village calling any station. Whisperfall Village calling any station. Please respond if you can hear this transmission." They waited in silence, listening to nothing but static. Finn adjusted the frequency and tried again. Still nothing. "Maybe this signal isn't strong enough," Luna suggested. "Or maybe there's no one out there to hear us." Finn was about to give up when a burst of static erupted from the speaker, followed by a crackling voice. "Whisperfall Village, this is Crystalbrook Valley. We read you loud and clear. Thank the mountain spirits, we thought you'd all perished in the avalanche." Luna gasped and grabbed Finn's arm. "It works, Finn, it actually works." The voice continued. "This is Jasper Windridge from Crystalbrook Valley. We lost contact with you 3 months ago. Is everyone all right? How many survivors do you have?" Finn keyed the microphone with shaking hands. "Crystalbrook Valley. This is Finn Ashworth from Whisperfall. We have 47 residents, all alive and well. The avalanche destroyed our communication tower, but we managed to build a replacement system. What's your status?" "Outstanding work on the radio." "Finn, we have 63 residents here, and we've been in contact with 4 other mountain communities. There's a whole network of us up here that the lowland authorities have basically forgotten about." Over the next hour, Finn and Luna learned that their isolation had been far from unique. A dozen mountain villages had been struggling with similar communication problems, cut off from the outside world by failing infrastructure and government neglect. Crystalbrook Valley had managed to maintain an old ham radio system, making them the unofficial communication hub for the region. "We've been coordinating supply exchanges, sharing weather information, even arranging marriages between villages," Jasper explained with obvious pride in his voice. "Your addition to the network is exactly what we needed. Whisperfall has always been known for its skilled craftspeople." As they talked, Luna found herself drawn to Jasper's voice. He sounded confident and knowledgeable, with an easy laugh that made her smile despite herself. When he mentioned that he was 17 and had been managing Crystalbrook's communication network for 2 years, she felt an unexpected flutter of interest. "Is there anyone else there?" Jasper asked after they'd exchanged basic information about their respective villages. "I'd love to meet the whole team that built such an impressive radio system." "I'm here," Luna said, leaning toward the microphone. "Luna Brightwater. I helped with the construction." "Luna," Jasper repeated, and there was something warm in the way he said her name that made Finn's jaw tighten involuntarily. "What a beautiful name. I'd love to hear more about your role in the project." For the next 20 minutes, Luna and Jasper fell into an easy conversation about technical details, village life, and shared experiences of mountain isolation. Finn found himself relegated to the role of silent observer, watching Luna's face light up as she discovered someone who shared her newfound passion for electronics and communication. "We should establish regular contact," Jasper suggested as their first conversation wound down. "Daily check-ins, weather reports, coordination of supply needs." "Luna, would you be willing to handle communications for Whisperfall? You seem to have a natural talent for this." "I'd love to," Luna replied without hesitation. "What time should we schedule our next contact?" "How about tomorrow evening, just after sunset? That seems to be when atmospheric conditions are best for long-distance transmission." After they signed off, an uncomfortable silence settled over the workshop. Finn busied himself with unnecessary adjustments to the equipment, while Luna stared thoughtfully at the now quiet radio. "He seems nice," she said finally. "Very nice." Finn agreed, though his tone suggested he found this fact more irritating than pleasant. "Finn, are you upset about something?" He looked up from his work, meeting her concerned gaze. "Why would I be upset? We succeeded. We built a working radio system and made contact with the outside world. This is exactly what we wanted to accomplish, but nothing," Finn insisted. "I'm glad you found someone who appreciates your technical skills. Jasper seems very enthusiastic about including you in the communication network." Luna studied his face. recognizing the stubborn set of his jaw that appeared whenever he was trying to hide his feelings. "You're jealous?" "I'm not jealous," Finn protested. "I'm practical. We built this radio to help our village, not to facilitate long-distance romances with strangers." "Romance?" Luna's eyebrows rose. "Who said anything about romance? He's just friendly and knowledgeable about radio communication. Unlike some people, he doesn't seem to think that my interest in electronics is unusual or inappropriate." "I never said your interest was inappropriate. You didn't have to say it. Every time I suggest an improvement or ask a technical question, you look surprised. Like you can't believe a girl would understand such things." Finn stared at her, genuinely shocked. "Luna, I don't think that at all. You're brilliant at this. You're better at component identification than I am. And your intuition about circuit problems has saved us days of troubleshooting. I look surprised because you keep impressing me, not because I think you shouldn't be here." Luna's expression softened slightly. Really, Finn confirmed. "I'm sorry if I made you feel otherwise, and I'm sorry about acting strange when you were talking to Jasper. You're right, I was jealous, not of his technical knowledge, but of how easily he could make you laugh." They stood facing each other in the lamplight, surrounded by the fruits of their shared labor. The radio equipment hummed quietly around them, a testament to what they could accomplish together. But the conversation had opened emotional territories that felt more complex than any circuit diagram. "Finn," Luna said softly, taking a step closer to him, "you don't need to be jealous of a voice on the radio. You're the one who's here. You're the one who believed in this impossible project and made it real. You're the one who—" She hesitated, then continued with quiet intensity. "You're the one I think about when I'm supposed to be sleeping." Before Finn could respond, she rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle but electric, sending shockwaves through his entire system that had nothing to do with electronics and everything to do with the girl he'd been falling in love with since childhood. When they separated, both were breathing hard. Finn reached up to touch Luna's face, marveling at the softness of her skin. "Luna, tomorrow," she whispered, pressing her finger to his lips. "Tomorrow we can figure out what this means. Tonight, let's just be proud of what we built together." As they cleaned up the workshop and prepared to return to their respective homes, both knew that their radio system had accomplished more than just restoring communication to Whisperfall Village. It had also opened channels between their hearts that would prove far more complex and challenging than any technical project they'd ever attempted. 3 weeks had passed since Whisperfall's first contact with the outside world, and Luna's nightly radio conversations with Jasper Windridge had become the highlight of her day. Each evening, as the sun disappeared behind the mountain peaks, she would settle into the workshop with a cup of herbal tea and lose herself in discussions that ranged from technical improvements to philosophical debates about life in the mountains. Finn told himself he didn't mind. After all, the radio network had proven invaluable for their village. They'd arranged trades for desperately needed medical supplies, received advance warnings about weather patterns, and even helped coordinate a rescue effort when a hiker went missing in the passes. Between valleys, Luna's natural talent for communication had made her the unofficial voice of Whisperfall, and her growing expertise with radio protocols impressed even Willem. But as Finn listened to her laughter drifting from the workshop each evening, he couldn't shake the feeling that something precious was slipping away from him. "You're brooding again," Luna observed as she found him tinkering with antenna adjustments on a crisp October morning. Frost sparkled on the workshop windows, and their breath formed small clouds in the chilly air. "I'm not brooding," Finn protested, though he knew his denial lacked conviction. "I'm optimizing signal strength. We're losing clarity on the long-distance frequencies." Luna moved to stand beside him, close enough that he could smell the lavender soap she'd started using, a luxury item traded through the radio network. "Jasper mentioned that yesterday. He thinks it might be atmospheric interference from the approaching winter weather." "Of course he did," Finn muttered under his breath. "What's that supposed to mean?" Finn set down his tools and turned to face her. "Nothing. I'm glad Jasper has theories about our technical problems. Very helpful of him." Luna's green eyes flashed with irritation. His theories are usually right, actually. He's helped us solve 3 different communication issues in the past week. I could have solved those issues myself if you'd given me the chance, Finn replied, immediately regretting the petulant tone in his voice. Finn, what is your problem? Ever since we made contact with the other villages, you've been impossible to work with. You question every suggestion. You sulk whenever I mention Jasper. And you act like I've committed some crime by being good at radio communication. Before Finn could respond, the workshop door burst open and Mira Cloudwalker rushed inside, her dark hair wild from running. Luna's best friend since childhood was typically composed and practical, but now her brown eyes were bright with excitement. Luna, you have to come to the radio right now, Mira gasped, catching her breath. There's been an emergency transmission from Crystalbrook Valley, something about a medical crisis. The 3 of them hurried to the main radio station, where Elder Tobias was already waiting with a concerned expression. The speaker crackled to life as Luna fine-tuned the frequency. Whisperfall Village. This is Sage Moonbrook from Crystalbrook Valley. We need immediate assistance. Please respond. Luna keyed the microphone. Crystalbrook Valley. This is Luna Brightwater. What's your emergency status, Luna? Thank goodness. The relief in the woman's voice was palpable. My brother Jasper has been injured in a rock slide while checking our antenna array. He's unconscious with what appears to be a severe head injury. Our village healer is visiting family in the lowlands, and we don't have anyone with advanced medical training. Luna felt her stomach drop. How severe are his injuries? Is he breathing normally? Breathing is shallow but steady. There's significant bleeding from a head wound, and he hasn't regained consciousness in over an hour. We've managed to stop the bleeding, but we're worried about internal injuries. Elder Tobias leaned toward the microphone. Miss Moonbrook, this is Elder Stoneheart. Our village healer, Vera Brightwater, has extensive trauma experience. We can provide medical guidance over the radio. That would be a blessing, Elder. We're desperate here. Over the next 4 hours, Luna's mother worked through the radio to guide Crystalbrook's residents through emergency medical procedures. Luna remained at the radio, maintaining constant contact and providing emotional support to Sage, who was clearly distraught about her brother's condition. Finn found himself in the strange position of hoping for Jasper's recovery while simultaneously wrestling with complicated feelings about Luna's obvious distress. When she finally received word that Jasper had regained consciousness and appeared to be out of immediate danger, the relief on her face was unmistakable. Thank you, Sage's voice crackled through the speaker, all of you. We couldn't have managed this without your help. Jasper is asking for Luna specifically. He wants to thank her for staying on the radio all day. Luna's cheeks flushed pink. Tell him I'm just glad he's all right, and that he should rest instead of worrying about radio contact. Actually, Sage continued, he's been asking if it would be possible for someone from Whisperfall to visit during his recovery. The journey between our valleys isn't impossible now that the early snows have made the high passes more stable. He specifically mentioned wanting to meet Luna and Finn in person, to thank you both for the radio network that probably saved his life today. The workshop fell silent except for the static from the radio. Luna looked at Finn, her expression unreadable. Elder Tobias stroked his beard thoughtfully. Mira watched the scene with the fascination of someone observing a complicated drama unfold. That's a generous invitation, Luna said finally. We'll need to discuss it with the village council. Travel between valleys is still dangerous, even in good conditions. After signing off, the group dispersed, but Finn lingered in the workshop, ostensibly checking equipment, but actually trying to process the day's events. Luna remained as well, organizing papers and avoiding his gaze. You want to go, Finn said finally. It wasn't a question. Luna paused in her organizing. It would be valuable for the radio network, meeting our contacts in person, seeing how other villages have solved technical problems, sharing knowledge face to face instead of through static-filled transmissions. That's not why you want to go. She turned to face him, her jaw set with determination. And if it's not, if I'm curious about meeting someone who shares my interests and appreciates my contributions, is that such a terrible thing, Luna? We kissed, Finn said quietly, 3 weeks ago, in this very room, we kissed. Did that mean nothing to you?" Luna's expression softened, and for a moment, the frustration melted away from her features. "Of course it meant something. It meant everything. But then you pulled away, Finn, emotionally. I mean, every time Jasper and I have a conversation, you act like I'm betraying you somehow. Every time I demonstrate knowledge about electronics, you look surprised all over again. And every time I suggest that maybe I'm capable of more than just handing you tools, you find ways to dismiss my ideas. That's not fair," Finn protested. "I've never dismissed your ideas, haven't you? Last week one suggested modifications to improve our signal range, and you said we should stick to basics. When I proposed establishing contact with more distant villages, you said it was unnecessarily complicated. And yesterday, when I mentioned that Jasper had some interesting theories about frequency optimization, you changed the subject entirely." Finn opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. Looking back at their recent interactions, he could see how his behavior might have appeared dismissive, even though that hadn't been his intention. "I wasn't trying to dismiss you," he said finally. "I was trying to protect what we built together. This project, this partnership, it was ours. When Jasper started becoming part of every conversation, when you started deferring to his expertise instead of trusting your own instincts, it felt like you were replacing me." Luna moved closer, close enough to reach out and touch his arm. "Finn, you can't be replaced. You're the one who saw the possibility where everyone else saw only wreckage. You're the one who convinced me that impossible things could be accomplished with determination and creativity. But that doesn't mean I can't value other people's knowledge and perspectives too. I know that," Finn said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Intellectually, I know that. But when I hear you laughing at his jokes every night, when I see how excited you get about his latest technical insights, it makes me wonder if what we have together is enough." Luna was quiet for a long moment, studying his face in the lamplight. "What we have together is the foundation for everything else," she said softly. "But Finn, if you want more than friendship from me, if you want the kind of relationship that survives jealousy and growth and change, then you have to trust me. You have to believe that I can care about other people without caring less about you." Before Finn could respond, the radio crackled to life with an incoming transmission. Luna moved to answer it, and Finn heard Jasper's voice, weaker than usual, but unmistakably warm. "Luna, are you there? I wanted to thank you personally for today. Sage told me you stayed by the radio for hours. Jasper, how are you feeling? You should be resting. I'm feeling grateful to be alive, thanks to you and your mother's expertise. Luna, I hope this doesn't sound too forward, but today made me realize how much our conversations mean to me, even through radio static. I feel like I know you better than people I've lived near my entire life." Luna glanced at Finn, who was listening, with obvious tension. "I feel the same way. It's strange how voices can carry so much personality across such distances, which is why I hope you'll consider visiting. I know it's a dangerous journey, but I'd love to meet you in person, and Finn too, of course. The whole village wants to thank you both." Luna took a deep breath. "I'll speak with the council about the possibility. If we can arrange safe passage, I think a visit would benefit both our communities." After the conversation ended, Finn and Luna sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Finn spoke. "If you go to Crystalbrook Valley, you're not coming back the same person," he said quietly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you'll meet Jasper face to face, and he'll be everything his voice suggests, charming and knowledgeable and grateful for your help today. And I'll still be here, covered in solder flux and struggling to understand why the girl I've loved since childhood is slipping away from me." Luna's breath caught. "Finn, you said you loved me." "Of course I love you," Finn replied, his voice rough with emotion. "I've loved you since we were children playing in the village square. I loved you when you started helping with this impossible radio project. I loved you when you kissed me 3 weeks ago, and I've loved you every day since, even when I was too proud and scared to show it properly." Luna felt tears prick at her eyes. "Then why didn't you say so before? Why did you wait until I was considering leaving to tell me something so important?" "Because I was afraid," Finn admitted. "Afraid that if I made my feelings too obvious, It would change everything between us. Afraid that you'd realize you could do better than an orphan blacksmith's apprentice. With crazy dreams about building radios from trash, Luna moved closer, close enough to cup his face in her hands. Finn Ashworth, you are the smartest, most creative, most stubbornly optimistic person I've ever known. You built something impossible and gave our village hope. You see solutions where others see only problems, and you make me laugh even when I'm trying to be angry with you. But, Finn asked, sensing the hesitation in her voice, but I need to know who I am beyond this village, beyond this workshop, beyond being the healer's daughter who helps the brilliant inventor. Jasper makes me feel like I could be someone important in my own right, not just as your assistant or your girlfriend. Finn felt something break inside his chest. So you're going to Crystalbrook Valley? I'm considering it, Luna said gently, not to hurt you, and not because I don't care about what we have together, but because I need to understand what I'm capable of before I can decide what I want my future to look like. As she left the workshop that night, Luna turned back to look at Finn one more time. He was silhouetted against the glow of the equipment they'd built together, and she memorized the image, knowing that everything between them was about to change. Tomorrow, she would ask the council for permission to make the journey to Crystalbrook Valley, and Finn would have to decide whether his love for her was strong enough to let her go. The morning Luna departed for Crystalbrook Valley dawned gray and bitter, with frost covering everything in a crystalline shell that seemed to mirror Finn's emotional state. He stood at the village's edge, watching the small expedition prepare for their 3-day journey through treacherous mountain passes. Luna sat astride a sturdy mountain pony, wrapped in thick wool and leather against the cold, her radio equipment carefully packed in waterproof containers. Elder Tobias had approved the mission after extensive council debate, recognizing the diplomatic and technical value of establishing face-to-face contact with their radio partners. Mira Cloudwalker would accompany Luna, along with 2 experienced mountain guides and a pack train carrying trade goods. What should have been a proud moment for their village felt to Finn like a funeral procession. Take care of the radio station while I'm gone, Luna said as she rode past where Finn stood. Her voice was carefully neutral, but her green eyes held a mixture of excitement and regret that made his chest ache. I will, Finn replied, though they both knew Willem or any number of other villagers could manage the basic communication duties. The real question was whether there would be anything left between them for her to return to. As the expedition disappeared into the mountain mists, Finn threw himself into technical projects with desperate intensity. He redesigned the antenna array for better signal clarity, upgraded the power supply system, and began work on a secondary communication station that could serve as backup if their main equipment failed. The work kept his hands busy, but his mind wandered constantly to Luna and what she might be discovering in Crystalbrook Valley. 2 days into her absence, Finn was calibrating frequency settings when an unexpected transmission crackled through the speakers. The voice was young, confident, and unfamiliar. Whisperfall Village. This is Rowan Stormcrest calling from Ironhold Village. I'm looking to speak with Luna Brightwater. Is she available? Finn frowned as he keyed the microphone. Ironhold Village. This is Finn Ashworth. Luna is currently traveling. Can I help you with something? Finn, I've heard about your radio network from other villages. Impressive work. I'm actually an old friend of Luna's. We grew up together before my family moved to Ironhold 7 years ago. I just heard that Whisperfall had reestablished communication, and I was hoping to reconnect with her. The name triggered a memory for Finn. Rowan Stormcrest had been Luna's closest friend. During childhood, a charismatic boy who'd been the center of attention in any group. Finn remembered feeling intimidated by Rowan's easy confidence and natural leadership abilities. When Rowan's family had left Whisperfall, Luna had cried for weeks.